Hello, welcome back to Sage Thyme. I am Lillian. Hi, friends. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here today. We have a reading for the sign of Pisces, and I'm being told from the constellation of Pisces. And there are some significant distinctions with that. And just first and foremost, I think maybe we'll probably get into it throughout the reading. The reason why the conversation wants to come through as from the constellation of Pisces, you'll have to excuse the noise. I have some Verizon is on the roof of the building I live in, so they're just a couple feet above my head. They've been here all summer so far, installing more cell phone towers on top of my head and my neighbors' heads, and so it is a bit loud, and I've tried to wait to record this meeting, and I'm just being told for many reasons, which we'll discover, to be in it with the chaos and the disruption, as interestingly enough, the energies that are supporting me and us today and moving through me with this message are so powerfully calming and soothing, so caring. There's so much care, and I think that's I recognize that that's what wants to be here with you today as a part of this message, is to remind us that this is a time, this is an era of chaos. This is what the constellation of Pisces, the stars of that constellation, are speaking to us about the consciousness of those the constellation. They're speaking to us about this era and how perfect to come from Pisces, the final constellation of our zodiac, before it starts back up in Aries. It's a lot of energy, and yet it's very calm. And you'll probably see and feel, I'm being told to suggest to you to watch as the chaos perhaps is going to get louder and the bangs, to watch and feel the way that they're helping support me ground the energy, because this is what is wanted to be offered and provided to you as a clear and open channel, which we are ever so becoming. That is something that is not necessarily a completion, arrival, destination for any human in this lifetime that I can gather. Really, it's about opening the layers and layers and layers of our energy systems and constellations. I can tell that this message is going to go in tangents, so buckle up. This is a very important message. There are really beautiful things that want to come through, and as is the style of conversation of the divine feminine, the matriarchal, so to speak, this will be delivered in spirals and tangents, fractals within the spirals, right? With good pauses. And I always notice that these messages tend to have the most pinnacle summation and culmination of potency and poignant message delivery near the end. So definitely watch to the end if you are able to and ready. My energy feels so unique, feels almost timid, but not timid from a place of fear. It's this young person, what's next, I wonder. And it's a lot. It's almost like I'm kind of seeing like a 6-year-old being told about Disney World their entire life, and they go on a big trip, and mom and dad walk into the Disney World gates with the little 6-year-old, and there's just this excitement and overwhelm and awe because there's nothing like that in the world, right? So it's something like that. So the constellation of Pisces, one of the first messages that came out, I was just grounding my energy and shuffling from the Enchanted Forest tarot deck, and this card came out. I wasn't looking for a card. This is the Lover's card, and it came out in reverse. And I thought, okay, and I put it back, and I was just, again, I was doing a gentle shuffle to bring myself in rhythm with this conversation. And as I'm shuffling again for the second time, another card flew out and hit the ground, and I flipped it over, and wouldn't you know, it again was the Lover's card in reverse. And in between the first and the second pull of that card, I heard myself saying to myself, the Lover's card in this deck represents a pocket dimension. It's a place where these two individuals that are opposite and fitting pieces of the puzzle come together, and they meet under this giant elder tree. And in this space, everything's just right. It's content, it's peaceful, they're together, they're embraced and relaxed, gazing upon each other. The world around them doesn't really exist, other than supportive in its hold and its music. You can see they have even their bow and arrow and other weapons nearby them, but it's set to the side. But it is nearby, indicating that this pocket dimension moment of things being in contentment and ease is a moment. And these moments in our lives are moments, and this is the essence of non-attachment in living. Very important, most certainly. And also, I got distracted by the music for a moment. There's so much coming in, so and also the moment must be allowed to pass. Those moments of perfection and contentment, when we hold on to them, then they can start to distort and twist and turn. When we let them go, like the currents, the tides of the ocean, they can ebb and flow. They can come in and they can go back out. And they do go back out. And so this was part of what Pisces constellation wanted to express. They were saying to me, and I believe that this message is not just for me. I believe that this is a message very powerfully, not only for this collective listening, but for everybody. And it's a hard message for me to hear. I don't want to hear it. But the message is that this is not the lifetime. This is not the era, the framework of time in human evolution for things to be steady in ease. Not that it won't have that communion and grace and gentleness, because it will be, and it will be provided, and there'll be touchstones for it too. But really it's about the chaos and the disruption that is occurring all around us. And no matter how many times we try to shift ourselves or move things around in our lives to have things line up perfectly for us to have what we need or what we think we need to create a ideal situation, to record a video, to be in a relationship, to pursue something, create an art. No matter how much we want that, what really wants to be expressed is the ability to be in the disruption as it's occurring all around you, to be in the center of the storm, and then call in the energies within ourselves and without ourselves, in that vertical calling in from the earth and from the cosmos of incredible, supportive, calming and grounding embrace. And it's an embrace that's felt around the body, it's also felt within. And I'm really, really feeling that right now in the first and second chakra. It's a heaviness that is not the way people are using heaviness in the spiritual community. It's a really important heaviness. It's a heaviness of movement. It's like glacial. Imagine you are a giant that isn't seen by anybody on the planet, but your job is to move a glacier. And they move what, like a few centimeters in a year? But it's so important to keep moving that glacier, keep allowing and focusing the awareness on moving that glacier through our bodies, down into the pelvic bowl, through the hips and legs, and out through the feet and the bottoms of the feet into the earth, and down deep into that earth, in order to create more opening for an exchange with the earth, with the consciousness of the earth and her so many contributions that she wants to provide and help and support with, but also in terms of the union of the feminine and the masculine. The consciousness of the earth wanting to move through our bodies as the feminine, the yin consciousness, to meet at the center in that juncture between the solar plexus and the heart chakra, as the masculine cosmic energies come through our second, sixth, fifth, fourth, and into that same zone, and allowing that masculine and feminine energy with conscious presence, allowing them and witnessing them as they meet and entwine and intertangle and come to know one another again as a divine and sacred union within you, such that they can co-create together and you can birth within yourself the co-creation, the child of their intermingling. And you can birth that within you over and over and over again. These moon cycles are an excellent way to do this, utilizing the energies of the new moon, the seed planting, along with the full moon, the birthing. You can do it in smaller cycles within a 28-day period, and you can of course do it in longer cycles too, and just allow yourself to observe how that comes through. It's so interesting that this wants to come through. I really didn't expect it this way, of course, right? Color me calm. That's what just stood out. I have a little book prop underneath here. And so this coming out in reverse both times really told me that it did want to be in the reading and remind me that the union and the peacetime exists in the outer world more temporarily than it exists in the inner world. And that divine and sacred masculine and feminine lovers union really experientially allowed and opened up to and surrendered to the movement and the integration of the love between those two yin and yang energies as they co-create the cosmos, the Pisces, the constellation, the final constellation of our zodiac, our sky space. And they come together and they create something beautiful, and allow them to do that within you. Knowing it's safe, knowing it's benevolent, knowing it's for the greater good of not only your life and joy and peace, and for the greater good of the all of this world, and quite frankly, the cosmos as a whole. Knowing and holding that intention is what creates it as so. You provide that alchemical foundation, and they bring the ingredients, the feminine and the masculine. So I think before I move back to that deck, let's do an overall. My setup is a little unique right now. This comes from the Spirit of the Animals Oracle. And also in the background, you'll hear some beautiful lute being played. This is a YouTube artist, and I will put his information in the description box below. We got 2 cards. Oh, we have 3 cards. Well, let's see. Okay. So 3 cards for an overall. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I was told that to use mostly my overall general reading decks today as the substance. So the first one that came out, that's an undercurrent of today's message, and we'll get more in detail with these at the end of the reading, but I'll let you have these a bit in your pocket while we go through the reading. And this is Heron. I love this card. I love the artist, Jody Bergsma. I've been enjoying her since I was a child. And the Heron brings in patience. And boy, isn't that the energy of what we're experiencing in today's reading. And I am hearing and feeling that if this is a difficult energy to be present with, because it is slow and gentle and it takes time, it simmers, the energy, and it flows. If it feels challenging to be in this and be present with me in this message, let that be okay. That any tensions or bubbling, like, go to it with your presence and awareness. Go to it with your breath and let it have its moment. Let it play all the way out. And even if it takes the whole reading, and maybe this is a template for you to do that. And I feel a bubble of release and grief and joy beneath that bloom of release and grief. The next 2 cards out that came out, and one came behind. I thought it was being sneaky, but it's telling me it's a supportive. So we've got Butterfly, and then my old pal Coyote. And the keywords on these 2, these are the ones that are truly the overall spirit animals that want to be worked with for you, and while utilizing and connecting with Heron's patience and fluidity and peacefulness. So Butterfly, of course, speaks of rebirth, and it says you can reinvent yourself, open to the rewards of change. You have brilliance to share with the world. Love every part of your journey. And the Coyote, this is one of my favorite descriptors of Coyote, is the revealer of truth, Don't take things too seriously. Make time to play. Great wisdom comes from laughing at your own folly. Look out for the traps and tricks of life and learn from them. It's really nice, actually. Okay. I'm going to set those aside for now. And we'll go into the Beyond Lemuria Oracle decks. This reading really wants to present itself differently. Notice how when I addressed the noise from a place of that calm that was sweeping through me and around me and enveloping me, the noise stopped. I'd been pressing play and record and several times I even got several minutes into one of the readings. There we go. Now I'm getting a pickup. That's another indication of when what needs to be said is said, what needs to be done is done, then that's when things lift and shift and move. Okay. So we got 2 cards that came out from the Beyond Lemuria. Okay, it's kind of a given. We've got the card of blueprints and card of transformation. I'll put these up here, so if you want to screenshot them and take some time with them, most definitely do. These pieces of art, they're originally canvas art, not AI at all, and the artist is epic at pulling forth codes into, it seems pretty clear to me, but you can gaze into these cards for a long period of time. So what do we want to say? So blueprints is really emphasizing the, again, butterfly at her throat, and this one in particular is blue. The entire tones of the card are mostly primarily blue. Color that is represented in the throat chakra, the butterfly shape itself is the shape of the thyroid. So there's a conversation here talking about, and I'm being shown the third eye as it's connected to the pineal gland, which is at the back of the head. So there's this movement from the 7th chakra and a connection with the third eye, back behind to the back of the head, to the pineal gland, and then moving forward to the anterior of the neck and that beautiful butterfly before descending down towards the heart. That butterfly beating its wings in a vibratory resonance that is the deliverance of your messages that come from your voice, the tones, the resonance, and see how it moves in that horizontal. This is the demonstration, the illustration of how Spirit wants you to work with those vertical energies, the cosmic, and as well as the creations that come in from the Earth's consciousness, and allowing part of that to really support all the structural aspects of the throat and the lungs, as well as, it's strange, everything keeps slipping away. What's going on with that? I'm seeing on either side of her face and head are coming through these wisps of images on either side. And I'm seeing on this left side here the image of a coyote, and on the right side is the image of what looks to me like a fox. And they both feel like they're informing her voice. But again, they're coming from the lateral world, not the vertical influences. So these are thought forms. They feel very benevolent to me, even if they are a trickster. Again, remember, our coyote is a truth sayer. Our divine trickster is one that reveals truth by playing tricks. So to remember that we can recognize and discern the distinctions, not necessarily by how something is labeled in that it presents itself, but how something is integrated and assimilated. And when we take something like the coyote medicine and we instantly go, oh, that's the trickster, and we don't remember that, first of all, the dark always serves the light. Second of all, not everything that presents itself as against what we think we want or what we feel and even know what we want, not everything that does that is doing it maliciously. It might be doing it, a person, influence and energy might be doing it to intentionally get and feed off of our anger or fears or sadnesses. But it also, or otherwise, might be doing it simply to wake us up. Sometimes there are areas in our life that we have to wake up to that can only be woken up with soft, gentle empathy. And there are other areas in our life that can only be woken up with kind of the trick, the sleight of hand, the look over here as you take a picture here, or get a little cheek smack over here, the distraction. Some can only be done with a bait and hook type of situation, and some can only be done with harsh consequence and high volatility disruption. The ideal is, of course, to bring those distinctions into our beingness as they interplay with us in a way where we can meet them with how we best learn. So if you're somebody who best learns from action and go and creation and breaking and creating and those kinds of things, for instance, then working with that in that way, and also recognizing that there still is a foundational theme of what is of the best service of this world as a whole, as well as giving me, you, whomever it is, what is what you truly need. And that's always a key too, because what we truly need isn't always what we think or how we think we truly need. For instance, I had a patient years ago who was a sergeant and a physical trainer and conditioner, as well as all the other things of special ops men and women. And so his job was essentially 16 hours a day, 5 days a week, plus some on weekends, of hardcore fitness conditioning training with these men and women, as well as all the other things. But it was rigorous. And so he would want to come in to have body work done. And he would just want that slam and hard and elbows, kind of dig in and make it hurt to make it feel better. And of course, that is because his physical body is forcibly desensitized to touch. So moving soft and slow with him did not give him any relief. Even when I spoke to him about the importance and the validity of it, it didn't. It's not that it didn't give him any relief. It did. His body was getting a lot of relief, but it was opening up his body and energetic field in a way and into processing the pain that he was in a constant hold of throughout, dispersed throughout his body, in a way that he wasn't ready, or it simply wasn't the time of his life for that to happen. And so I recommended, very lovingly, he was a friend of mine as well, or friend of a friend, to, not feel bad about going and seeking out a practitioner who could provide for him what he needed. But I also explained to him, it's important to keep in mind that things like, and I'm speaking in terms of this because it's analogous to everything in our life. When working with something like muscle tissue and scar tissue inside the muscles, and knots in the muscles, and in the ligaments and tendons and so forth, what I consistently and always found time and time again was, upon working with tissue and creating pressure even before actual physical contact, if that was the work we were doing, there has to be a progression of allowance, which requires a request to enter and be present. And that request needs to, from say someone like me, the practitioner, needs to be backed up with the truth of non-invasiveness, non-harm, highest good for the all of the individual's physical and energetic and emotional infrastructure. And so that starts, for me as a practitioner, that would start long before a patient would ever even show up at the door for their appointment. And I would have to, and really need to, spend time with my internal systems, and then of course feeling what was around me and in the space I was working, as well as my mental intentions, where my mind was, if I was focusing on soccer camp for my kids and all the things that needed to be done, and the bills and this and that and the family and drama and right? So if I was over there and bringing that into the appointment, really keeping it with me, until maybe moments until the person arrives or something like that, those thoughts and the connections that those thoughts have to the outside world would have come into what I was delivering to the patient, into and through the body of my being, as I laid hands or brought intention into their work. So yeah, if I would have dug in with knuckles and elbows, that would have reinforced a feedback loop system already present in his body that said, pain is good. Pain means strengthening. Pain means, in all these stories, right? Like, I'm tough and I can survive and all the things. And while that isn't not true, it's a superficial truth. And when you go into a person's physical or energetic field after asking permission and vulnerably showing what it is that you're bringing into that other person's, that other person's energetic sphere, that Vesica Pisces, the two people's spheres coming together and introducing and saying, may I share energetic space with you. And when there is permission, there is an allowance. And not this, this. See if I can that Vesica Pisces, that's right in the middle of the two spheres, just merging a bit. Allowing one another to be distinct and separate and unique, and creating a space where there is a shared circuitry of information, movement, creation, the lovers from that original card that we talked about coming together. So that's part of what that card wanted to speak to as well. To people, to creations even. It could be something, not necessarily an interpersonal, but it could be something like, say you're a tarot reader and the person that you want to work with does podcasts, and you come together, and instead of fully overlapping and intertwining with one another, you're able to share ideas and within a shared space while keeping your whole selves more separate and individuated. And who knows what can be birthed from that? Maybe just in conversation, maybe a business endeavor. And it's the same when we enter the spheres of others in the world, whether it's really personal, a practitioner and a patient, whether it's a parent and a child, or a grandparent and grandchild, a friend and a friend, or it's the Verizon construction workers on your roof, and you're simply thinking about them and trying not to be super angry and pissed off because your animals are having trauma experiences, and well, I just don't like it. I'm not that person that loves like bang, 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 unless I'm up to it, you know. But this isn't just my world. This is our world, and I have my space, and that space is mine. And it is sovereign. It belongs to me, just as yours does. And yet also, in order for this world to exist, all the parts and elements, all the trees and the crows and the critters and the minerals in the soil and the pollen in the air, they all have stories that they carry with them, consciousnesses that they carry with them. And to have this world be our home and fully recognize that it is so much bigger in its wholeness than we are as an individual. To grasp how important and essential it is to be an open, vulnerably revealing, transparent in our revelation, our revealings, and our engagements with everything from breathing the outside air as the wind passes through us and taking in millions and millions of particles and subparticles that have had journeys and stories beyond imagining, until we take it in consciously and we say thank you to the wind, thank you to the bees that collected the pollen and dispersed it in the air, thank you to the water molecules, thank you, all of it, for all of your billions of years of memory that you bring into my body. I'd like to be present to that and opening to that and allowing it to tell its story through you. That is the other part of the giving and the receiving. So when we're integrating from a vertical sense, from above and below, within that yin and yang, and we're creating blueprints from who we are in that co-creation of greater consciousness within our own little minute part of the world, and we emanate that out with our voice through the thyroid, that butterfly-shaped organ that has its own unique orchestration of frequencies. It's unique from the heart, the kidneys, each one having its own orchestration that combines symphonically, and moving that out laterally in those reverberations, and then having those, as you see the coyote and the fox coming in, that returning information on the winds that we breathe in our in-breath, telling us and teaching us the stories and the depths and the layers in a way that we don't have to hear and see and feel all the details of every moment of every second, of every day, but we can be in conversation and engagement with those stories in the form of gnosis. And that comes from the quiet mind, the presence of, instead of having our consciousness in our mind and being present to the thoughts or not present, having our consciousness in our heart space and grounding it throughout the body and branching it throughout the upper half. It's so unique to be speaking to you like this in a way where that's what it is. I have control, but I have surrendered control over what I want to say and how I want to say it, the cadence and the speed and rhythm of what I'm saying, to meet some sort of YouTube video oracle reading standards of our culture, shall we say. Even my tone today is different. It's more raspy and masculine, as it's trying to move through and open up so it can echo more clearly and cleanly through and from those lower chakras, as the energy from the constellation of Pisces is coming in. I'm feeling those tears of confirmation. They say, yes, this is what we're about. This is what you're about. A vessel that is the universe, that you are a goddess of, that you are a god of, that is such a small grain of sand, right? A small drop of water in a great ocean of the cosmos. And yet we still have this privilege, this inherent, because we incarnated with the consciousness that is our spirit. Our spirit is the collection of consciousness and of what we've gathered throughout lifetimes and incarnations and non-incarnation. But I'm in this state, yes, of allowing the conversation to come through me. And there is a part of me inside that's, pick it up, do it differently, say more, articulate this, and that. And don't be silly and stutter over your words, don't look weird and non-fancy presentable, whatever. I'm awesome, I'm here. I'm epic, you're here. You're awesome. It's the way it is. So let's go to the next card. And then I think we'll start to wrap it up a little bit. Transformation coming out. Okay. Coming out next to the blueprint card. I feel like this is really self-explanatory, and certainly more information can come through. And I think right now, as I'm looking at the image, I'm observing different messages come through for you. So this is definitely one to take a screenshot of and crop and just spend some time with. Let's see about one more card maybe from the, Beyond Lemuria deck. This feels like two. We won't go into it too much. Ooh. Oh my goodness, now a whole story wants to come out. Well, let's see what we want to do. Here we go. Journey into Wholeness came out on top. And the portal keeper came out secondary next to it. I feel like I could do a whole separate reading on this, and we're already at 44 minutes and 22 seconds, 4422. So let's, Spirit, bring in something succinct for me, and we can talk about this more next time. The journey into wholeness is, again, the integration of the yin and the yang, the yin, the darkness, the yang, the light. It is stepping back and away from the theater that is our lives far enough with attunement to enough depth and focus within ourselves to recognize that in truth, the whole truth, there is no evil, there is no good. We'll experience it as that. And yes, there are energies, entities, individuals whom act with those intentions. But it's really important to remember and recognize that those are still the players. Everything is still being overseen and navigated and co-created from a much higher level of our higher selves, and even further, the collective integration of those individual higher selves into the greater one that is Source All. So recognizing that the journey into wholeness benefits and becomes itself most truly when we can be aware and discerning with that which has malicious intent, also that which has benevolent intent, because as the Fae well know, if you've watched any of my readings, they bring this up all the time. It is often the ones that have the malicious or malignant intent that are serving us most quickly and intentionally, even at times, especially in the Fae world, to bring us to the benefic results, and inversely so those that come off more haughty and or even truly like more benevolent and loving, while they are soft and coaxing and soothing, they can, this is something I work with myself and how I deliver, that can lull us into a state of contentment that instantly almost brings us into complacency if we're not present in the wholeness of the shadow and the light, of the yin and the yang, the darkness and the light, the feminine and the masculine. These are not things that are inherently bad or evil or good, when allowed to shed themselves of those kinds of labels and simply be present from a foundation of what works for all of us and what works well. That's what we're about, right? Not only what works well and harmoniously, but what raises us into a greater state of being and evolution. Because in truth, as the Coyote Truth Seeker says, we are here to evolve as souls, not to get what we want and to feel good all the time. And again, I'm reminded of the Lovers in Reverse card and that little pocket dimension of contentment. That's only a small piece of what the soul desires. And being the portal keeper of that truth is being the presence, the witness, and the holding and allowing and surrendering to the mutability and the fixed of that wholeness, that distinction and integration and allowance. Okay, let's just quickly wrap up with, what do you want to, shall we read the, I don't think we'll read the butterfly, I think we'll read the coyote. I'm gonna grab the book. That's the one that wants to speak. A, B, C, D. And this is the one, I just saw cat, okay. Here we go, guys. So coyote. Among Native American cultures, coyote has been called the trickster, or the wise and foolish ones. We have all been the fool, and we have all been tricked, but it's all part of life. We make mistakes, fall down, suffer bad choices, yet learn from them all. The person that can learn will survive and thrive. Coyote teaches us to play and celebrate life daily. Coyote asks us to laugh, especially at ourselves, and not take life too seriously. Coyote medicine is associated with youthful energy, childlike wisdom, and lifelong learning. Coyote people are asked to be students of life, and this is the soul's intent. Yes? And it's good to remember, too, that the card, the Fool, in the Tarot is the number 0, and it's representative of not a foolish person, but an individual who is childlike and embraces the wonderment and the unknowing of what presents itself. And says, I wonder what that is. Instead of saying, oh, that's an eagle, or oh, that's a bumblebee, I wonder what that is, with the sounds and the looks and the things. And what is it telling me? And opening oneself up like that, that's where the soul gets its satisfaction of discovery and learning. Coyote wisdom is seldom delivered directly, but comes from the long and winding road. Yes, we fail. Yay for failures. Those are the biggest successes. We get fooled. We can be deceived and worse. We may fall down 7 times, but we get up 8, and that is the win. If Coyote is your totem animal, you will be assured of success if you learn from mistakes and never give up. To laugh, adapt, transform, and thrive is the heart of Coyote medicine. And the word that really keeps coming out to me here at the end that has been presenting itself is that laughter, that joy, finding the humor, the true humor, not the, we laugh at the demise of ourselves and others' mistakes, more the, okay, yeah, let's find fun in this, instead of mocking at it. And being able to represent that 0, the shape of the non-number 0, is the shape of a circle that is opened, vulnerable, surrendering, allowing, and receiving, as well as transmitting. I want to end with a semi-quote from one of my favorite teachers, Zen Buddha master, Thich Nhat Hanh. And of course, everything about his life and his legacy was being the alchemical state of peace. And, he worked with Martin Luther King Jr. for a number of occasions and over many years, and they were friends, truly. And one of the things that they both discussed as Martin Luther King was in fact writing his dream speech, and it was brought up many times by both individuals, shared together, was this conversation of the ideal world includes our greatest adversaries, our most formerly resented foes, because the most ideal world is one that opens to and allows the space of peace and forgiveness. And so when those individuals enter, they can't help but intermingle with that horizontal transmission, which we are having fed and fueled and reinforced by the vertical transmissions that we are co-creating with. And Zen Master and Thich Nhat Hanh would say, and yet there's a unique way of dealing with different people and in different periods of time in their life. And he would speak of his students, and he would say, sometimes, metaphorically speaking, when he says the word stick, sometimes when I am working with a student, what she needs is the compassion, the zen and embrace and the gentleness to get where she needs to go. And then I have students, and some of them by necessity need and even require the zen stick So there's the compassion stick of teaching, which is soft and gentle and supportive. It can be used as a staff or a pillar of a house. And then there is the compassion stick, which comes with a bit of a snap. It gets their attention. But it's held and done from the place and presence of peacefulness, of compassionate understanding. This is what we're about. This is the message from the constellation of Pisces today. I am thankful that you are here. Thank you for your likes, subscribes, and comments, of course. They're always very supportive to me. I wish you all well. Have a beautiful day.